So I think that's a great kind of segue. It was, I think, by accident, but to have the communication group go first and then the relationship building team go second. So I think there's a lot of things that overlap or things that could be used in terms of building relationships that build on our presentation today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Colleen.
Hi, everyone. So we are the IAMB Partnership Builders. So our objective, we were tasked with the second goal, which was to enhance and establish collaborative efforts with service organizations both outside of NHLBI and with the Office of Management and Office of the Director in NHLBI. And in doing so, we thought it was important to define strategic partnerships, which we decided has three separate components: collaboration, alliance, and trust. The products and services that we developed were a list of case studies based on the groups that we chose this year, and also a resource guide on how to build strategic partnerships that includes best practices and lessons learned, and you'll receive that today. We found that, or what we hope is that perspectives and interests of DIR and IAMB are considered as new initiatives are being developed and rolled out. And with the groups that we studied, we found that the most successful partnerships consist of regular communication, transparency, and a basic understanding of each other's roles, responsibilities, and our current workload. In order to figure out what relationships were like at the beginning of this project and how they've improved today, we decided to survey ITAC, MSB, OHR, and AMB, and ask them on a scale of 1 to 10 how they thought their relationship with IAMB was. And what we found was, you can see that there has been improvement across the board. With ITAC, they thought that before there was kind of a lack of knowledge of what the other group was doing, and most of that was due to the non-delivery of IT for IAMB and DIR. But now there's definitely a lot more collaboration. There's a lot more working together. However, there's still a little bit of tension with regard to meeting timelines and coordinating things that they need to collaborate on. MSB, same thing. There was really no coordination, not a lot of understanding what the other groups were doing. And also there was a high turnover, which made it difficult to know who was in charge and who was supposed to be the point of contact. But MSB and IAMB have worked together to develop different rollout plans for different projects and have a much better working knowledge of each other's groups. OHR has also seen improvement in their relationship with IAMB, for the most part regarding face-to-face contact and planned effort to focus on OHR processes within IAMB. And last, AMB were and IAMB were pretty separate entities before, didn't really work together aside from the chiefs of staff, but now there's been a lot more integration, a lot more opportunities to meet face-to-face, and all the staff are able to leverage each other's expertise.
I was just caught up in Colin's presentation. So as Colleen mentioned, our group was tasked with studying. We picked 4 groups. And so the case study that I worked on was Susan Perlman, who's here from the Office of Acquisitions. She was supposed to get up here with me, but she can stay seated there. That we worked together and met with ITAC's senior leadership. Over 2014, we met with them 2 or 3 times to begin on really strengthening our relationship. And this time, the biggest change is that we started to ask questions about and to listen to our customer in terms of what were their thoughts on having a successful relationship, instead of going in with our notion about, or preconceived notions about what a relationship should be. And so the things that ITAC told us is that they wanted a high level of regular communication. They wanted a basic understanding of one another's roles and responsibilities. They're real big on identifying a point of contact for every project they do. And so they'll assign someone on the ITAC end, and they were hopeful that on our end we could do something similar. And so all information is being funneled through one person from each party. They really wanted transparency to make sure all information is flowing in both directions. They wanted to establish regular meetings. And they wanted to create more opportunities for interaction across the Office of Management. And as you know, we started to do more of that with the OM All Hands meeting, like the one that occurred a week and a half ago with the SWOT analysis. I believe we're having a IAMB holiday gathering tomorrow. And so there's been a lot of things to have more cross opportunities for OM. And so this is just a timeline of the activities that Susan and I worked on with ITAC. The main two things I want to highlight is on September 17th, for those of you who were here at the time, we invited ITAC to come out and actually talk about who they are and what they do. So that was a first, and it was a really great presentation for them to come out, and they learned a lot from it. And so they actually asked that I do the same thing, and I actually went out a couple weeks later and gave a similar presentation about who IAMB is and what we do and the point of contact, which they really appreciated as well. And then based on our work over the past year, several monthly meetings have been established. In addition to, I meet monthly with Alistair Thompson, who's the Chief Information Officer, and we've been meeting monthly for a year, but that was basically it in terms of regular month-to-month meetings. And so based on the work of our Strategic Planning Working Group, we actually established 2 other monthly meetings. And so one is that Bobby meets with Brian Parsons and Justin Platt, and they meet on a monthly basis to discuss space issues. I assume those are still occurring monthly. And then we also started monthly meetings with Brian Parson and Usman to have more of a connection between our IT shop and their IT shop. And so finally, what do we do to sustain these relationships, right? Because this group is sunsetting, right, at the end, as of the end of the month. So how do we continue to maintain those increased effectiveness scores, right, with each of the 4 groups we work with? Well, in ITAC's case, they want us to better use their ITAC customer relationship managers. They also want to ensure that the monthly meetings that I just talked about that continue into the future. And the really important piece is that you continue to meet face-to-face. It's so easy, things slip, oh, let's just have a phone call, and then eventually you just stop meeting. And that's where things start to break down in base of what we learned over the past year. And then finally, find ways to continue to invite ITAC back or to set up different opportunities to engage the staff and engage us around, for example, like at some point we're going to go to voice over internet for our phones at some point, right? And so it would be better that we hear about that early versus as they're coming to put the new phone on your desk, right? So these are things that we want to hope that will continue in terms of sustaining our newfound relationship with ITAC moving into 2015. So with that.
Keaton and I were tasked with the management service branches. So how does MSB support IAMB? MSB supports the mission of NHLBI by providing effective and efficient solutions to a wide variety of complex managerial and human capital management issues. So some of the key themes that we found when working with MSB is we wanted to have a perceived competence in area of expertise. So some of them have our roles and they have their own roles. We kind of need to learn to understand each other better. There's a high level of regular communication, basic understanding of one another's roles, responsibility, and workload. Honestly, regular meetings, also a face-to-face interaction, understanding the difference between groups, and coordinating plans and efforts for programs affecting IAMB, MSB, and DIR.
All right, and as Elaine said, I was working with this relationship throughout the year. As Gary walked through with ITAC, this is a quick overview of the timeline of activities that we did throughout the year with MSB. As Colleen mentioned, one of the struggles with our relationship with MSB was employee turnover, not only with MSB, but also with IAMB. And so even throughout this process, there was some turnover that involved in sort of switching people around. As you can see, Leslie and I initially had a conversation with Michael Corrier and several others with MSB. But then as Leslie transitioned out, Elaine gladly stepped up and came over and helped support the building of this relationship. And moving through here, Michael made a presentation here back in July, which I think many of you probably remember. He gave an overview of MSB and what they do and sort of the key players with that group. Chuck made the same type of presentation to MSB, also over the summer during one of their seminar series that they were putting on. He did a wonderful job and fielded many good questions from IAMB, from the MSB individuals. So this is just an example of one of the projects that we partnered with MSB on in terms of rolling things out so that there was a unified timeline and unified communication. Some of you may know, especially in the Gen admin section, we had a new conference approval log that went out to the DIR support staff this year. With sort of Dan taking the effort from our office and then working with others at MSB, we were able to have a jointed effort in rolling this out. And both of us felt that the rollout of this was a lot more successful than other activities that had happened, just because we didn't take the time to really sit down and have that coordinated effort. Some of the things moving forward, as Gary mentioned with ITAC, there are things that we have to do to maintain the relationship. One of those is going to be to appoint an IAMB POC to help facilitate communication. And MSB also wants to have a 6-month check-in. We met with them about 2 weeks ago to sort of get their feeling on how they thought things had gone over the year. What was really interesting was that they actually came to us with a long list of projects and other small things that we didn't even necessarily think about that had helped build the relationship throughout the year. We want to continue to have that face-to-face contact. I think that's sort of a theme that's running through our presentation here, is that that's just really a critical component to having a successful working relationship. Another thing we want to do is be able to put on a procurement workshop. Obviously, this is something that Elaine finds important, and so that's just one of those things that we're able to go over there and really help them understand some processes better as well. And then continuing with they put on a 1OM series over there where they bring in different speakers from around the Office of Management. There have been a couple of emails that have gone out to IAMB that have opened those up to all of our staff. I know a couple of us on our team have taken the time to go over and watch a couple of those presentations when there were individuals that were pertinent to what we do. And this is, again, is just talking about sustaining the relationship. And I walked through some of these just briefly. So with that, I will turn it over to Dan.
I was originally not on this group, but due to Catherine leaving and my particular relationship from our section with OHR, it made the most sense for me to fill in, especially to present on what all the work that Catherine and Melanie did in the building this strategic partnership with OHR. So OHR is just a little bit different than the other groups, I think, because there's a necessary relationship that exists, especially between the administrative officers and ATs with OHR, but it does affect the rest of IAMB and the DIR as well, because they're necessary in order to bring on, recruit, retain FTEs within the DIR and NHLBI. So there are necessary relationships, so it's really focused on sort of how can we really turn that into a strategic partnership more than just a relationship that exists because we have to. And so as you can see here, and this was information that was outlined in July, but you know, it's important to really focus on, again, not to reiterate, but some of it was, again, focused on face-to-face communication and scheduling those meetings that really help to build that partnership between the two groups. So over the course of the year, it really began in a similar fashion. We're establishing an initial meeting to sort of outline what is it that's important between both offices, how can we best utilize each other. They have HR specialists that are really critical in getting the work done. And throughout the year, there's also been, similar to what Steve mentioned, there's been change within OHR. Several of their key staff members have transitioned to great positions, same within the general administration section. So, you know, established relationships sort of shifted, and so it's more about how do you build that partnership so that although maybe staff changes, the relationship between organizations doesn't shift. And so over the year, there were several meetings in developing sort of what would that look like and how do we really affect a strong relationship and partnership between the two groups. And I think this outlines really the main outcomes and sort of how to move forward. The biggest piece is really going to be focused on workshops, really educating both HR and how we do things within the DIR, because it is unique, as well as HR educating our office, specifically within the Gen Admin section, about the specific processes, changes, and really make sure that we're all working together to best bring on an FTE within the organization. And then other areas are going to be with other ideas or about HR rotations, which would be actually bringing in an HR specialist and having them actually available within IAMB on the third floor at different occasions, maybe once a month. That's something that we need to still coordinate with Lauren Tedesco, who's the chief of OHR branch. And then the other element would also go to possibly myself or others from IAMB to go present to OHR about what IAMB is, our structure and our organization. Again, since the DIR is unique and how we do things, it really helps to make things work best. The same goes for OHR. So that is.
Okay, so I'm Melanie Showers, and I'm presenting our case study from IAMB, and I'm also from IAMB for those who don't know me. So our group that consisted of Ariel, I, and Karen Abraham, and just as a reminder of the relationship we have and our partnership. So we share a lot of the same general administrative processes, and we just have different customer base. So for like property and travel, we do a lot of the same things, whereas space and facilities and procurement over 3,000, IAMB provides those services to us, the whole entire institute. And then we also participate in cross-OM working groups together, the lean events. So for example, this year we worked together on travel, property, and on. So when IAMB came to IAMB to ask them about our key components to a successful partnership, these were the things that really stood out to us. Shared perceptions of working towards a common goal of creating a center of excellence, a mindset of curiosity, openness, sharing ideas and resources, and creating a relationship that benefits both IAMB and So kind of, again, this is what we did throughout the year. Earlier in the year, Shakita, Karen, Ariel, and I met together, and we discussed kind of some of those ideas about what a successful partnership is. Karen also attended one of our workload analysis, a few of our workload analysis meetings throughout the year, and she really brought some great ideas to those meetings. And throughout the year, with the space and facilities transition, as well as the procurement transition, our groups have met together, to ease that transition. And then, again, we did the lean events, and we also had our big team building session, which was really the crux of our entire work group for IAMB. So some of the actions necessary to sustain a relationship with IAMB were listed as continued identification of leadership on opportunities and administrative management functions to partner on those types of things. So I think if you attended the OM All Hands, you heard us talking a little bit about net and need cleanup, property management, procurement, with partner on those. Leveraging opportunities to use each other as experts and identify opportunities to build relationships among IAMB and IAMB, such as our event tomorrow, which we're excited about. And continued review and identification of roles and responsibilities where we may have the same customer base, but just different functions.
So part of our goals was to develop a strategic working group guide to help you build and then maintain a strategic partnership. So the guide is broken down into 4 main steps, the first one being reaching out and connecting with your new partner. One of the most valuable things that we found out was having a first meeting and just listening to your other partner and just hearing out, what's important to them, what they do, and really get a feel of, who this new partner is. The second step is to making the effort. So once you set up this initial meeting, it's later on following through and then having other meetings, developing maybe a schedule for these other meetings for the long run, and also setting up your goals. What are your goals for the next steps? Part 3 is collaborating. It's extremely important to take the second step and the goals that you set and then complete it or start to work on it in step 3. And then step 4 is maintaining that. So after all your hard work in step 1, 2, and 3, it's important to then continue the relationship and maybe set future goals for the next year or for the next steps and also develop a way to make sure that you continue to communicate even after previous goals have been accomplished.
So Alia talked a bit about the last phase, which was maintenance. So the Office of the Branch Chief will be keeping track of the maintenance of the partnerships formed through diligent oversight to prepare ourselves and the partnerships to keep up the maintenance. We'll be utilizing the case studies as kind of a outline, resource guide when making important collaborative decisions and actions in the future. Through this maintenance, we'll ensure that all the tasks carried out by OBC and IAMB team members will remain effective and ensure that the relationship and the collaboration will continue. There's 2 of our products will require updating as the partnerships develop, those being the resource guide, which will be updated as necessary, and then also the 6-month check-in, which mentioned. So every 6 months, audit the partnerships and make sure everything's going smoothly. And moving forward into the next couple of years and further on after that, here are 9 branches and offices that through just kind of checking out other offices we could partner up with the team deemed that we could reach out to them and form future partnerships. So this is not exhaustive, but they're a list of where we would go first. And that is it.
Any questions for our group? So when we first embarked on this process, we realized that we had to, there was a long list, as you see, the 9 plus the 4 groups that we chose. So there was 13, and we realized with the size of our group that we could only handle 4. But the reason why NINDS was on the list but a lower priority is that they developed a POT system, as most of you know. And so they're in the process of actually developing a travel and HR system. And so we were hopeful to circle back with them at some point and leverage their IT systems, and perhaps we could use them within our environment, within NHLBI. And so we felt like we already had a good relationship there, particularly with POTS with Usman, but we know they have other tools that they've been developing, I think, for a long time. I checked in with them many years ago, but we haven't in the last couple of years, and so there may be an opportunity to leverage some of their systems.